So what did the thoughtful discussion group discuss this last time around?
The question was, what makes you feel safe? It was a broader question about safety in general, but the focus wasn't on what makes each individual feel safe, but what makes us collectively as a group of individuals feel safe.
And what were some of the situations that people came up with?
One of the ideas that people came up with was being in control. That if you're in control of your environment, you tend to feel a little bit safer. And that sort of progressed to a broader issue of having your environment be predictable. You don't necessarily need to control it. If you know that a boulder is going to come rolling down, you can get out of the way. So the predictability was really even more important than the control over the environment. Now, one person wanted to argue right off the bat that we shouldn't be talking about safety, that safety really wasn't what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on taking risk, that as a group of human beings in the United States, we spent way too much time trying to be safe and not nearly enough time being adventuresome.
Well, and some people are natural risk takers and they're okay with that, but I probably would not be.
Right, and when you think about it, people who jump out of airplanes don't do so without a parachute. They've got a plan for getting back safely.
Right. And what were some of the other situations that made people feel safe?
Well, one thing that didn't come up, which was interesting, was nobody said, if I have a gun, I feel safe. In fact, there was a general agreement that guns in the area lent themselves to very swift unpredictability.
Yes, and I feel stress when there's a weapon in the area myself. Yeah.
Right, and that extends also to very large, craggy men. There were lots of people in the group, male and female, who felt threatened by big guys. You know, particularly big guys who projected an aura of threat or anger. And that was another one in the vicinity of anger often made people feel unsafe. That, again, it led to that unpredictability. It was that you didn't know where they were going to go, and you didn't know where their limits were, and they were hot, and they might do something that you didn't expect.
To me, the idea of, I in general feel safe here in town and here in our world despite the drama that's going on.
Yeah, and you know, like there were points where people said, well, here in Greenbelt, and we were sitting in the Roosevelt Center where there are cameras everywhere, it's hard not to feel safer because you're being monitored. And people are less likely to do something in an environment where they know they're being monitored. On the other hand, the camera doesn't actually make you any safer. The camera just makes it easier to catch somebody who's done something that made you unsafe. And that sort of lent back to the argument about the gun, that it didn't make you safer, it sort of just was a response.
Right.
And that's true of a lot of things. Like I argued and was roundly defeated on this, that a seatbelt didn't make you any safer. It didn't reduce the likelihood you'd be in an accident. It would reduce the likelihood you would die in an accident.
Yeah, reduce serious injury. Right.
So the thing that's unsafe in that scenario, to my way of thinking, was the accident.
So did anyone touch on the illusion of safety, which I think you may have been sort of dancing around the edges here?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's hard to tell a distinction between the illusion of safety and the real thing. And I kind of dropped it because it didn't really matter, right? If you felt safe, you felt safe, whether that was reasonable or not. And whether you felt safe because of something you had done, like a Lucky Charm kind of thing, might make you feel safe, even though practically it had no impact. It wasn't likely to cause any impact. Walking around in groups makes people feel safer, although, you know, people in groups are hurt just like any other group. I mean, they're subject to earthquakes and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with being in a group. But because you can identify a particular type of danger, like being assaulted, and you feel like you can mitigate that, you feel safer.
Exactly, in a group.
Yeah. whether that's a realistic way you could get hurt or not. People slip and fall on banana peels, even in a group.
What makes you feel safe?
I think what makes me feel safe is control. Predictability is nice. I would rather make sure no boulders come down on me.
Right.
So I prefer control, and I think I feel safer in control. But I'm a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male. I'm not someone who's subject to a lot of harm just out of nowhere. I'm a small guy, so back in high school I used to get beat up all the time, and the last bell in high school would scare me because I knew that meant all the big guys were coming to get me. But now that's really not, the threat of physical violence in that sense just doesn't exist in the same way it did when I was a child. So it doesn't really carry over very well.
Many years ago, I met a young soldier who was a veteran, and he said that he felt that he could handle just about any situation, and if he couldn't, he could still do the 100-yard dash in 10 seconds.
That's right. That's right. All you have to be able to do is run faster than the guy next to you.
Right. Well, thank you very much for bringing this up on this great topic of safety, and I look forward to our next one.
All right, sounds good.